Dr. Baxter joined the staff of National Institute for Literacy in 1999. 2 years later, she was designated interim director, and in 2005, she became the director of that center. She has been very active in managing the Institute's literacy work in early childhood, adolescent, and adult reading. Prior to joining the Institute, Sandra was a senior evaluator at GAO, where her work focused on federal education policy and programs. She has an undergraduate degree from Howard University, a master's degree from Loyola College, and a PhD from Harvard University.
The National Institute for Literacy was created by a bipartisan act of Congress in 1999 and reauthorized under the Workforce Investment Act of 1998. Under provisions of the Act, the Institute is required to provide national leadership for literacy, to serve as a national resource for adult education and literacy programs, and to promote closer coordination among federal agencies on issues concerning literacy. In keeping with our authorizing legislation, the Institute views literacy broadly. We don't see it just as the ability to read. Rather, literacy represents the sum of many skills: reading, writing, speaking in English, computing, and solving problems at levels of proficiency to function on your job, in your family, and in your community. In just 1 week, our nation will pause to mark the 4th of July and to celebrate our independence. But for so many adults living in the United States and the children who are dependent upon them, there will be less to celebrate because they are not full partners in the American dream. Many adults lack the basic literacy skills needed to obtain a good job, to take care of themselves and their families, as well as contribute to our national economy. They have not acquired the basic skills they need to understand how to maintain good health or to follow a doctor's instructions to get well when they are sick. And many of them, too many of them, lack the skill to read a book to their children at bedtime or help their children with homework. The low levels of literacy attainment among a large portion of the nation's adult population are particularly threatening to America's future because the majority of workers who will be in the workforce 20 years from now are the workers who are in the workforce now. Here are just a few facts that I'd like to share with you from the latest assessment of a national assessment of adult literacy. Overall, 93 million adults have limited reading, writing, and math skills. Nearly 1/2 of the nation's adults, 43%, have prose literacy skills at the below basic or basic levels. 34% of the adults tested had below basic or basic skills in document literacy skills. And slightly more than half, 55% of the nation's adults, had quantitative skills at the below basic or basic level. This is cause for concern. If the United States is to maintain a competitive place in the global economy, we must address the literacy needs of the adults who are either already in the workforce or who should be in the workforce but lack the skills to acquire work. The Educational Testing Service recently published a report called America's Perfect Storm: 3 Forces Changing Our Nation's Future. It said, and I quote, "There has been a profound restructuring of the U.S. workplace driven by technological innovation and globalization. Jobs associated with college-level education are expected to generate about 46% of all job growth in the next 10 years. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook, the number of jobs requiring an associate's degree or post-secondary vocational credential also will grow by a little more than 24% in the next decade. There is a lot of work for us to do. Fortunately, the adult education system is prepared and is increasingly well positioned to help the nation meet this challenge. Through the U.S. Departments of Education, Labor, Health and Human Services, and the National Institute for Literacy, the federal government is playing a significant role in supporting adults to achieve the literacy skills they need to find and hold jobs. I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk with you about our accomplishments, and I'll do
Those
two.
are dangerous words, Dr. Baxter. Actually, you have about a half a minute left, so if you can wrap it up in a minute or so, we'd appreciate
Okay,
that.
I can do that. One of the most important things that we've done over the past decade has been to develop new resources on teaching adults to read. We conducted a systematic review of the research on how to teach adults to read, and using that we created a teacher's manual and an online diagnostic tool for adult educators that they can use to diagnose adults who come to their programs and determine what skills they really need. I'd like to point out that what's important about this effort is that it really has been a wonderful example of coordination and cooperation between government agencies. Those tools are now being used by the U.S. Department of Education as the basis for a program that they're calling STAR, which is a multi-state effort to improve reading achievement. So the investment made through the Institute is being leveraged by a much larger department, better positioned for dissemination and technical assistance. In conclusion, I would just like to say that literacy skills really are the building blocks for a successful life in this nation. And this is an issue, when we think about the numbers of adults who really lack those basic skills, this is an issue that we really must pay much more attention to and really have a strong emphasis on in the Workforce Investment Act. My prepared testimony has more data that you can use, and I'm happy to answer questions.